Let's switch. You know why I'm going to ask to switch? It's because I have one good ear.
Really?
I mean, they're both okay, but this ear is a lot better than the other. You're going to ask me questions?
Yes, I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
questions.
So we should do this, and then we should talk pretty much to camera.
Okay.
Not all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just asking.
Yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Hi, I'm with Leslie Easterbrook, everyone.
Hi. 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 Hi.
Can you tell me how you got started in the business?
It's such a long story. I have to try to make this really short.
Okay.
You know, otherwise this will be an hour's episode, right? I studied at Stephens College in Columbia, Missouri, which is close to Kansas City, where we are right now. And I graduated in music, and I was going to become an opera singer. And I went to Los Angeles to sing a concert with the Burbank Symphony, and I sang with a wonderful old composer. He was old at the time, he was 92. And I'd been singing his songs all my life, and with the symphony, and it was the last live concert he ever gave. His name was Rudolf Frimmel, and there was an agent that happened to be in the audience that night because he was a friend of the trombone player. And so we got to be friends, and he convinced me to go to a musical theater workshop and not to go to Juilliard and take a scholarship, but to just take musical theater workshop, go to UCLA for a while, this would graduate, and see if I might like to do musicals instead. I'd done a lot of musicals in college and also operas, so blah, 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 blah. I spent that year, and I got 2 jobs at the end of the year, and one of them was with San Francisco Opera as their spring opera, $70 a week, and the other one was for Disney to go to St. Louis and sing at the Muni and play Snow White for $1,000 a week and an equity contract. And I said, well, there's more money in musicals than opera. I mean, it was like one of those strange things where I also always wanted to sing Someday My Prince Will Come, and I'm Wishing, and all those songs from the original Snow White movie. I did that, got an equity contract, and I started getting work in Los Angeles before I ever went to Broadway. And that was it. I was in show business. But it was basically going to college, doing the kind of thing that your parents tell you to do instead of just taking a chance. But I never thought that I would be making movies. I always thought it would be plays, musicals, and operas. So the transition to film and television came from a Broadway show that I did in 1978.
Awesome. Out of everything you've done in your career, can you tell me what is your favorite thing you've ever worked on?
Wow. I mean, that's so hard because there are the things that aren't as much fun and things that aren't as much of a challenge. And if there's no challenge, it's not fun anyway. And then there's the camaraderie. Whenever you work in a play, whenever you work in a musical or a film or a television show, everybody, crew and cast, becomes a family. So it's really, you know, those experiences are always memorable and truly wonderful. Some may be more painful than others, but as much as I love, I loved working on Devil's Rejects, but the favorite was the first Police Academy.
Really?
They're all stand-up comics, but funny and warm and lovely, and the material was really funny. But all the cast members were really funny. Not only that, they were loving, and they became my best friends, and we became a real family. And then we got to do it with a variety of different combinations for 6 more movies. So we really became much tighter than you. It's like being on the road, you know, with a musical or something. We were that tight, but over a span of many years. So that first Police Academy, I cried when I had to leave. And I had to come back and sing at the Hollywood Bowl. I was singing the national anthem, and then I was singing an Andrew Lloyd Webber contest in LA. So I had to leave before everybody else did. And I sobbed on that plane all the way back to LA.
Really?
I missed all those people. Yeah. And we've had a cast. David Graff, who plays Tackleberry, passed away about 14 years ago. And that was one of the hard, it was like a family member. I still mourn him all the time. I have to keep his picture on my table.
Can you tell me, the growing age of Marvel Cinematic Universe is the main thing in Hollywood right now?
What is the
Marvel Cinematic Universe, Avengers, for what superhero would you love to play, or a character from?
You would have to be an original character. I don't think there's any out there that probably hasn't been taken. Right? I can't think of any that haven't been taken and that, you know, into the movies or that people have
there's a lot.
Probably, but I don't know who they are. So I would like to be a superhero who had the temper of Mother Firefly, who had the command of herself, that Callahan had in the Police Academy movies. And I would like to be a gigantic fairy godmother that would get inside of everybody and find out what their passions and dreams are and help it come true. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to have that power to give the love, hope, realization of dreams to other people?
Hey, let's make that into a comic book.
I don't think it's gruesome enough. I don't think it's scary enough. I don't think it's funny. But maybe you can make it funny, and maybe save people from hurting themselves, because we have a tendency to make choices that can hurt us sometimes. So you could make, I guess, a comic book about maybe a kid that is making bad choices with friends, or a bad choice, just bad choices for himself. Going through adolescence is really hard. And just pull him right out of there and make all of that go away.
Do something like Tales from the Crypt, where it all goes wrong, or like a Wishmaster and everything like that. That'd be cool.
It'd be, if you could get some kind of funny, really wonderful chaos out of everything going right. I mean, we could start a whole new thing, right?
Definitely.
That life is essentially very good.
And out of horror movies, what iconic horror legend would you love to play?
Out of existing, like to come in and do a sequel or something.
Or
You see,
or a sequel, remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, this is really going to sound bizarre, but I would love to do a remake of The Colossus of New York. And the only thing is, I don't know what I would do to it, bring it into contemporary times or whatever, but there was a woman who was the star of the film. She was a young actress named Mala Powers. And I sneaked out of my house and went to a midnight movie a block away. And this was in a little town in Nebraska, and I got caught, my girlfriend and I, because we stopped to get a burger at the all-night restaurant on the way home, and they called my parents. And I got in such trouble for that. Well, then years later, I was working on a radio drama in LA with Mala Powers, who was in her 80s. And she since passed away. And so there was this kind of connection with Mala Powers, because I sacrificed everything to go see that movie. And so it'd be fun to somehow contemporize that story and do it again.
And now, this is a two-part question. Why did you start doing conventions? How did you find out about conventions? And also, what makes this one so unique from the others, and what memories from this convention will you remember?
It's got a lot. This has got a lot of edges to it. I started doing the shows. I guess before I had built Devil's Rejects, there was a Hollywood Collectors show in Los Angeles, and so because of Police Academy and Laverne and Shirley, they asked me to come and do that. And I did a few of them, but they only had one or two a year, and you could never do one. I think it had to wait 2 years before you could do another one. But when I was doing Devil's Rejects, Sid Haig sat me down, and Ken Foray, and told me that I had to do the horror shows, and I had to start doing these shows. And I thought, well, I never liked the idea of selling an autograph.
Yeah.
I'm so flattered that somebody would want my autograph. I want to give it to them. I want to say thank you for watching. But they said you have to charge, and you have to. So I was hesitant at first, and then there was a show that came along, and they were all like, "You've got to do this. You've got to do this," and it was connected to Devil's Rejects, and I did it, and it was wonderful, and I loved it, and I didn't mind charging everybody.
Yeah.
I got the wicked thing. But because everybody else was doing it, I thought, I guess it's okay to do this. And there are times when I've been doing shows, when I've been like dirt poor, and the money that I took home for that show, from the show would pay bills, and so I the thing about the shows that I love the most is everybody who comes to the shows, are the people who are coming to meet actresses and to actors and to talk about the movies, because it gives us a chance to meet our audience. In the theater, you have an audience every night. It's right there, and you hear them breathing. You can feel every audience is different. You feel it through their breathing and through the warmth that's coming back to you. You don't get that in features, because your audience is a crew, and they're all doing a job. They don't care what you're doing. They care, but they don't really focus on it. They focus on their jobs. So when you come to a show, it's like we don't act for ourselves. We act for others. We're actually telling stories. And when the people who've heard the stories come and talk to us about the character of the movie, it's enlightening, it makes you a better actor, but it's also heartwarming, and it's fun. I take home the memories.
Definitely.
Much more important than the money.
We watched one last night with you and Bill Moseley and everything. It was awesome. I loved it. I can't wait for more of it.
Okay, because that's a hard film. That was a hard film. It's pretty serious in nature, and then also very funny, which I shouldn't give away. It's House of the Witch Doctor, coming out in September. It was hard for me to watch it. It was hard. It's so kind of violent. There's a kind of violence to it that it was hard. That was hard. Hard for me to read it, but I thought there was value in the script. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like you just really don't know who people are.
Definitely.
I mean, always put your best foot forward and enjoy what you can. There's also that part where you're a little bit wary.
While I've been writing and stuff, everyone says my things are really disturbing and stuff, and I saw that last night. I was like, it's kind of along the same lines and funny deaths, but also gruesome deaths at the same time. And after I saw that, I was like, well, maybe I can do this.
I think you can do it. I mean, you're doing this interview now, and you're doing a great job. This is one of the easiest interviews I've ever done.
Really?
You ask a good question, and you ask it so well, and you have such personality, and you have the dimples. So here we are with our matching dimples. But I say go for it. If you're writing that kind of stuff, there's a big market for it now. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like funny how clothing changes. You know, the corporate thing, they change this little bit, and everybody goes out and buys it. But we have this need for new. We like certain styles, but we have need for new versions of it. So I think there's a huge market for what you're talking about, and I would say to pursue it.
I definitely will.
And I wish you all the luck in the world, and I want a part.
I got to make some changes. A lot more people have been asking me for parts, like Carrie Weir, she wants a part. She said, I got to die by strangulation. It has to absolutely be strangulation.
That's interesting.
I know. I'm like,
that's interesting. I don't want to die. I want to be the one person that survives. Just because nobody notices I'm there, so they forget to kill me. And then I have the goods on everybody.
I'll keep that in mind.
It would be the only problem with putting all the people who want to be in the movie is that you'd have to have a huge budget.
Definitely, but like I have Tiffany Shepis and Debbie Rochon. They don't care about it. Like especially Tiffany. Tiffany loves me.
I love Tiffany. I almost worked with her. There was a film we were going to do, and we were excited about it. And I don't know whatever happened to it, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I know. She. I remember 2 years ago. She was like, "You got to put her in a movie with me," and she really, like.
We really want to work together. We really want to work together, and we're not going to charge you. But the whole thing is, if you want to get the better crews and you want to get it released and whatnot, you probably have to have a SAG contract.
Yeah.
So then there's the ultra low budget. That's how you get around it. But still, if you've got 45 people in the movie at $100 a day, that gets, you know.
Most of them actually are not big roles. Like most of them you'll see like a second and then they get killed off right there.
Right, like cameos. So they'd be in one day at a time.
Like Kevin Smith, he's going to be like in the podcast and like doing his podcast at the convention, and then you're going to see him in the hotel room a little bit later, and then he's dead, and it's the only time you see him.
That's good. But you can do that in a day. So you can get everybody out in one day, and that you can afford to do this.
Okay. Bye, everyone.